Learning a new language can be really challenging, but you know what? It can also be really fun. It all depends on the type of resources that you use to learn the language and also the methods that you use. I will say this time and time again, but learning a language by immersion is one of the best ways to actually make progress in that language. In this video, I will be sharing with you some resources that you can use to learn French and to also immerse yourself in the language. Hi, your favorite language learning partner here. If you're new here, on this channel I share language learning tips and tricks and also share with you my language learning journey. As a language learner, there are two different types of resources that you should be using to learn a language. The first one are resources that are tailored and made specifically for language learners, and the second are resources that are made for the native speakers of that language. In order to learn a language, it is recommended that you mix both of these resources to get an all-around benefit from the language. It's also really important to know what goals you have for learning that language. If it's a case that you want to learn to speak the language because you want to speak to other persons, then of course you have to practice speaking. But if it's a case where, for example, you want to learn to understand that language simply because you want to watch a movie or watch your favorite series, then that is going to take a different skill, and as such you have to have a different method for learning that language. Now on to resources that you can use to learn French. One of the first things I do whenever I start to learn a new language is to create a playlist of music that I love listening to in that language. I like to learn the lyrics of the song and mimic what the speakers are saying. This helps me to practice my pronunciation and even makes me more confident in my speaking abilities. One of the other things I like to use to do this as well is podcasts. I love listening to podcasts because it's very easy to implement and incorporate them in my life. I like to mimic what the speaker is saying by using the same intonation, and this also helps me to improve my pronunciation. Some podcasts that you can use to improve your French as a beginner are Inner French, Français avec Pierre, and also Coffee Break French. If you would like to see more tips on how you can use podcasts and music to learn French, plus also a list of podcasts and a French music playlist, then you should get this free guide. The link will be in the description. Grammar textbooks are also extremely important. One of the mistakes I made when I just started learning French was to ignore grammar completely. That was definitely something that affected me negatively later on in my language learning journey. So when I start to learn a new language, with immersing myself, I also like to learn some grammar. My favorite textbook to use to learn French grammar is Grammaire Progressive Niveau Intermédiaire. But there's also a beginner textbook called Grammaire Progressive Niveau Débutant, and these are really good books to learn grammar. But the thing is though that they're completely written in French. This is something that I personally like because it helps me to become even more immersed in the French language. But if that's something that's a little bit difficult for you, then don't worry about it because the beginner book is very simple and it uses a very beginner friendly language. YouTube channels are also very useful to learn French. Hello, welcome to my channel. Some YouTube channels that I like to use to learn French are French Mornings with Eliza, Piece of French, and also Inner French. These are also very beginner friendly and they will help you to become more familiar and even more used to the French language, while also learning interesting things about the French culture, which is also really important when you're learning a language. You cannot separate culture from the language. That's a no-no. When it comes to immersing in the language, as I've said before, podcasts and music are my favorites, but there are also other things that you can use, such as movies and series. I like to rewatch movies that I know already in French, so I would go on Netflix and I would change the audio and even sometimes the subtitles to French, and I'll rewatch the movies that I've already watched. This has helped me to learn so many new words that I can use in my daily life and also introduce me to different concepts in the French language. But there are also movies that were made for French natives that you can watch. An example is Loin de Paris, that's also on Netflix, but another one is La Famille Berlier, which isn't on Netflix sadly, but you can find it on any streaming platform. Some series that you can watch in French for French natives are The Cercle France and also Plan Coeur. Those are very enjoyable and those are some series that I really love to watch. There are also websites that you can use to improve your French and even practice your French. My favorite website to use is apprendre-tv5monde.com, and I love this website because it has levels from A1 to B2. You have videos that you can use to practice your comprehension of the language, and following that there are exercises that you can use to test your level of comprehension. And if it's that you're unsure of your level in the French language, then there's a mock exam that you can take that determines the level that you should start learning at on the website. One of the most widely known resources are language learning apps. There are so many apps that you can use to learn a language. My favorites are HelloTalk and Quizlet. I use Quizlet to help me to remember my vocabulary and to also practice my pronunciation. And I love using HelloTalk to interact with natives of the French language and to also practice by speaking with them and even sending a message. Those are little things that you can do that immerse yourself in the language and also help you to make a lot of progress. I also love to read, so one of my my goals in language learning is to be able to read a lot of books in my target languages. I recently reread a book that I've read before in English, but I read the French version, and this helped me to learn so much vocabulary and also become more comfortable with reading in French. For beginners, starting out with beginner-friendly books and even children's stories can help you to build up that skill. An example of a book that you can read is Le Petit Prince. It is an intermediate book, so for those persons who are able to read it, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you find this video helpful or if you found any value in it, be sure to leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.